Hey, good morning, guys. So, like you know, the last few weeks we've been really reviewing pretty intensively, getting ready for your upcoming 10-page paper, which is the biggest part of your guys' grade as juniors this year. All right, last prep day. So, it's crunch time, you guys. We're going over thesis statements and the 4 methods how to successfully write one. This is what I use when I write my own papers. So this is going to give you guys a really great insight on the kind of things I look for and college professors look for when they're writing a really great thesis statement. All right, today we're writing this because it's the most difficult yet the most important sentence to formulate. It states the purpose, functions the control, asserts the structure of your entire argument. So in 2 sentences, you're setting up your entire paper for your audience. Without a really good thesis statement, it can sound really weak, lacking in direction, and really uninteresting to the reader, which is not what you guys want, especially on this really important paper. All right, so today we're going over through the 4 successful methods. Here, up on my little iPad here, you guys all have your iPads. I have shared my version of my PowerPoint so you guys can have it with you when you're writing your thesis statements and go through it with me in class. All right. Now, it's not easy to see, but up here on my screen, here's kind of a basic overview of what we're talking about. It looks like a little bit like you're dissecting a frog. It's got the 4 points. Up here at the head is number 1. You're very focused. So you're stating it, you're going with it. Number 2, it needs to be debatable. So you can't be combative. You can't be going back between 1 or 2 people. As said, now number 3 we move to, you need to pick a side. So once you pick a side, you stick with it. You don't go back and forth. Even if it's not the perfect argument, you're still going to stick with it. And number 4, you're making a claim. So, like I said for number 1, it's focus. So you're stating it and you're moving forward. All right, so we're moving into method 1 to 4. Does anybody have any questions before we get started? Okay, now this is called getting it right. You're going to state it correctly. You're following your thesis like a roadmap from point to point. It needs to flow throughout your entire argument. All right, so you're going to ask yourself before you get started, what is the paper about? And as you guys know, last week we already picked our topics for our papers, so you guys already have number 1 done. Now, this is not a fact, it's an assertion. So you can't state it as a fact. It has to be an assertion of how you feel or believe about your argument. And last but not least, it's debatable. So the other side of the argument has to be able to state their claim and debate it with yours. Next, you're getting the sound right. Use words like because they're firm and definitive. It states that you know why you're saying this and that you're firm and confident in how you're going to bring it across. Here's a good example. Like I said, this is on slide 6 of your PowerPoints. Because of William the Conqueror's campaign into England, that nation developed the strength and culture it would need to eventually build the British Empire. So as you can see, they started it out with because, which I usually don't agree with, but this is a very good example of words you can use to make your argument seem much more firm and confident. All right, lastly, you need to know where to place your thesis statement. You usually, at least how I run in my classroom and how many college professors run, you need to put your thesis statement, and usually it's in the introduction or the first paragraph of your paper. This is where you're stating what you're going to be arguing before you get into the meat of your subject. It's going to be 1 or 2 sentences, like I've said before, very short and to the point. All right, so in review, you're going to state it correctly, get the sound right, and know where to place your thesis statement. Does anybody have any questions? All right, now we're going to have 5 to 10 minutes where you guys are going to get into your groups and you're going to talk about what we just kind of reviewed over. You've got your PowerPoints with you. If you have any questions, I'm going to be up here. Don't be afraid to raise your hand and I'll come and help you guys out. All right, now that we've been kind of talking about this for about 10 minutes now, you're going to start finding the perfect thesis, method 2. You're going to pick a topic that interests you. You guys hopefully already have that done this last week. We kind of went over that on Thursday. You're going to explore that topic. So like we did on Friday, you guys did a lot of research into what you're really going to be talking about to make sure you can really pull 10 pages out. Then you need to know the type, purpose, and audience. So you're going to be writing a paper differently if you're talking to a group of kindergarten students than you are your high school junior teacher for English. So you need to know who you're writing it to in order to bring it across and be understandable and clear. All right, part 2, that was pretty short and simple for you guys. You're going to find the perfect thesis, pick that topic that you really like that interests you, explore it, and then know your audience. That's really important. Now that we've kind of gone over part 2, I'm going to give you guys another 5-10 minutes depending on what you need. Don't be afraid to ask any questions. Come up, see me if you need to. I know this is not an easy topic to cover. Okay, so now that we've had about 5 to 10 minutes of time to talk to your classmates, talk to me about what we're doing, you're going to start into method 3 of 4. This is called writing it well. You're going to need to keep it narrow in scope. You can't talk about a really broad topic, so when you guys bring it up to me, if it's too broad, we're going to have to start narrowing that down. Basically, you're going to narrow it down, so instead of talking about the Civil War in general, I'm going to give you a good example of this, you're going to talk about the two sides of the Civil War, because the Civil War is a very huge and broad time with a lot of years to span. So basically, here's a really great example. You guys can follow it. This is slide 13 of your PowerPoint. While both sides fought the Civil War over the issue of slavery, the North fought for moral reasons, while the South fought to preserve its own institutions. As you can see, it's pretty easy. You can follow along your diagram to pick that out that I showed you on the first few slides. It's very narrow. They're talking about a very specific topic during the Civil War, not the entire Civil War. All right, so basically you can pick this apart too. While both sides fought the Civil War over the issue, it's stating the topic of their sentence. The North fought for moral reasons, while the South fought to preserve its own institutions. So they're picking a side and they're sticking with it, but it's debatable at the same time. All right, next, you're going to start with a question, but you answer it in your thesis. So basically, what that means is that you can't start a thesis with a question because it makes you seem like you're unsure about your topic. You need to answer the question like we did in part 1. You need to answer a question. Then, for say, you ask yourself if you're going to be talking about computers, what are the benefits of using computers in a 4th grade classroom? And then you answer that using a thesis. Lastly, you're following a rigid structure. It's like a formula or a pattern. You go from dot to dot, space to space. And you start writing down your thesis, which is what we're going to do in the next 5 to 10 minutes. You guys are going to start using everything. You can bring up your PowerPoints, ask me, talk to your classmates about it, see how they're doing. All right, and last, make sure for my class, we're writing our thesis statements at the beginning of our paper, at the intro. Before we start our paper, we're going to get our thesis statements. Starts a really good foundation for how you guys are going to write the rest of your paper. All right. In review, you're keeping it narrow, you're answering a question, and you're following a structure. Does anybody have any questions about that? All right, so again, 5 to 10 minutes, you guys. Talk about it, talk to me. We're going to get this done. All right, lastly, part 4 of 4. This is going to be super quick and super easy. You're enhancing that. Now that you've got your thesis structure down, you're just enhancing it, putting more into that concrete. You're analyzing it. You know you can't frame it as a question, you're answering it. It's not a list, we know that. It's 2 sentences, not in first person. And don't be combative like we've gone over. You gotta pick a side and stay with it. Lastly, this is really important for you guys. Although I want you to have your thesis written out, it doesn't have to be absolute. It can be a working thesis. If you get halfway through your paper, 5 pages into it, and you realize, my thesis isn't what I thought it was, this is where I want to go. You can change that. You just need to make sure you talk to me about it and we get it worked out. In review for part 4, like I said, you're analyzing it and you're always working with it, which is really great for you guys. All right, so now that we've gone through all the parts, we're going to have the rest of the hour for you guys to work. You can talk to each other, talk to me. Hopefully we'll be able to really get our thesis statements nailed down. Because next 2 weeks, you're going to really be working on that 10-page paper. Lastly, at the end of the hour, for what you guys have, you're going to present to me. Even if you guys don't have it all down, as long as you just have a really good idea of what you want, we can go with it. So, we're going to use the rest of the hour, work together, come up to me if you have any questions, and you have your PowerPoints here with your iPads. So, that has been the 4 methods of how to write a thesis statement.